Hello lovely friends, how are you all doing? I hope you are well on this New Year's Eve. Oh gosh, I should just say I have here my, it's so cute, my Sarah and Ian Prosecco, but I'm saving that for midnight. Yeah, I shall look forward to that. Wow, where did the whole year go? I know, I say it every year, but I mean, time just, it does get warpy faster as you get older, doesn't it? It has absolutely flown. It honestly, it hardly seems any time since I was sat here a whole year ago saying, where did this year go? Excuse me, I still seem to have the tail end, the dregs of this cold, so I'm going to be sipping. I'll tell you what I'll do, I'll leave the lid off and that will make the sips quicker. Gosh, where to start, you know, talking about a whole year, reflecting on a whole year. So many really positive things this year, so many. But of course, and I'm going to address this straight away because I want to end on positive things. Undoubtedly this year didn't go as I planned. It didn't go as my sister planned either. Coming into this year, we both knew that diagnosis was on the horizon because of some tests in the November of the year before. We didn't talk about it to anyone. Obviously, I mean, she shared with her husband, of course. So that was in the back of my mind. It was always a possibility. So I started the year in full on, right, let's get this flat sorted, let's get it done up, let's get it sold, let's get moved. And even possibly let's move up to North Yorkshire, even though it's not where I want to live. But of course at the time I was thinking, get up near my sister. And then of course her diagnosis came and yeah, we knew what it meant. So initially, in the beginning, sort of January, February, March, I was trying to carry on sort of as normal, decorate the kitchen. I was really pleased with how the tiles turned out. You know, it's these little victories that we hang on to, isn't it? Because I thought I was going to have to completely remove all the old grout, start again. But yeah, with a bit of work, a bit of elbow grease, those tiles, the grout, it all looks brand new. In fact, they look better now than they did when I originally did them. So yeah, and obviously the kitchen workbench where there'd been some watermarks and stains over the years, got all of that sanded out so that kitchen counter looks brand spanking new again. So yeah, in those first few months I was trying to carry on pretty much as normal. I knew that I was going to sort of slightly pare the garden down somewhat. I'd kind of thought, oh, I might even be showing my flat by April or May, therefore I don't want it covered in seedlings. So I did the garden quite differently this year in that I didn't start seedlings at home. Everything was started at the garden. Except for, thank goodness I did this, I did some backup tomato sowings at the flat, but they only took up that my front window sill is about 1 foot deep, so they took that space up, but that's all. So even then it's like, well, I could have shown the flat if it had been ready. But yeah, I did the garden in a very different way this year. It was a total experiment, starting everything off down there, even delicate things like squash, starting them off in the cold frame, but it worked, you know, they worked, and I had lovely harvests. It was noticeable because I did pare the garden down quite a bit. So in one bed where I had 8 tomatoes this year, in previous years I would have crammed in another row and had 16 tomatoes. So I'm definitely feeling that around about now as we go into next year. I look in the freezer and I think, I am actually going to run out of tomatoes. Oh, I've never run out of tomatoes. So there will be, I wonder how long they'll keep me going, maybe till March or so. So yeah, I'll be buying tomatoes I reckon April, May, June, July before the next harvest comes in. Anyway, the point is, with that pared down garden, even so, I got some really lovely harvests, and of course, lovely time in the garden, sometimes with friends and sometimes on my own. And thank goodness I had the garden this year, because well, my sister started going really downhill sort of towards the end of March, and it was really, it got horrible. Let's just say it got horrible. And, you know, there was a bit of back and forth, and, you know, me up there, what have you. Days when I wasn't there, sort of long daily phone calls with my brother-in-law, getting updates, also, you know, trying to be some support for him. So thank goodness I had the garden, because there were days I went to the garden and I sobbed. But there were days I went to the garden and I smiled, and I thought, I'm so lucky to have this place, and I'm so lucky to have my health. I'm going to make the most of today. And that's a bit of a theme we're going to pick up on. So yeah, thank goodness I had the garden, but obviously, you know, things went downhill with my sis, and she died the day between our 2 birthdays. It's devastating. I'm going to try and do this today without getting all upset, and I don't want to upset anyone. Of course, it's devastating. I miss her every day. And I still, you know, so many days. I read a book the other day, and I thought, oh, Sis would love this. Sis would love this. Pop it in the post. Oh, no. I'll take a photograph of something, and I immediately think of sending the photo to my sister. So yeah, you know, on a day-to-day basis, I miss her. There's no two ways about it. I think, though, one of the biggest, one of the biggest things for me with her dying this year, there's a couple of things actually. One, you know, my own mortality. I'll address that in a second. It's not morbid. None of this is going to be morbid. But the other thing was sort of it wasn't immediate. Obviously, in the immediate aftermath, it was just all, you know, howling tears and beating my chest and all that kind of stuff. But as I started to calm down a bit, I thought, oh, I'm going to have to change my will, because my will everything's left to my sister. So I need to sort that out. You sort of get into a kind of the business end of things. And then it occurred to me, who is going to be my next of kin? So if I have to go, you know, when I go and have knee surgery at some point, once I've moved, once I'm on a ground floor, my priority then is going to be nagging for a knee replacement for at least one of these knees before too long. Who do I write down as my next of kin? Now I don't have a next of kin. Oh, excuse me, I need to blow my schnozzle as well. I sorted out the next of kin. I sorted out. I asked a friend. I've asked a friend in the end, and that gives me a lot of reassurance. It's someone I completely trust. So at some point as well, I will organise power of attorney, so that if I ever lose my marbles, or if I was in an accident and can't speak for myself, whatever it is. The thing is, I don't think any of these things are things that we particularly want to think about. But we do. We need to think about them. We need to have provisions in place. We need to be practical. So, for instance, for Auntie Teapot, I kind of became her everything, so that power of attorney, I can manage her finances, I can pay the bills, I can, you know, pay the care team, just all that practical stuff that, you know, we all need help sometimes, don't we? And if I become a bit doddery, if I become doddery before my time, I'm going to need help. And I think that was the single biggest impact of my sister's death, apart from the very fact that I miss my sister. The biggest impact it had on me was to suddenly make me feel quite vulnerable and alone. Now, I've always been very self-contained and very happy in my own company. I mean, I am fantastic company. Look, I'm happy in my own company. That's fine. And when I want company, I reach out, and with friends, that's all great. I'm not talking about alone as in loneliness. It's the practical side of things. And I suddenly thought, if I get ill, or, even things like the knee surgery, I haven't got anyone. I have a lot of love, I have a lot of friends, and I do have a lot of love, and I feel a lot of love from you lovely people and all my Christmas gifts. That was so much love. There's a lot of love, but what it boils down to is I am not anybody's priority. So if I was poorly, if I needed help, and I asked a friend, well, what if their husband, wife, partner was ill at the same time and needed help? Of course, their priority is their husband, wife, partner. Or their priority might be their child, even if it's a grown-up child. Or their priority may be their parent. In other words, I'm nobody's priority. And I don't mean that in a, oh, poor orphan Annie. But honestly, that has been a big thought of these last few months, that I need to be self-contained. I need to be self-reliant, because there isn't someone else. There just isn't anybody. And like I said, I have lots of friends. I have good friends. I have beautiful friends. But they all have someone else who is more of a priority to them than I am to them. So yeah, that was a bit of not a wake-up call, that's the wrong way of putting it, but it was a bit of a shock when I started to think about it, and then it made me a bit sad, actually. It did make me sad, because this isn't how I intended. I didn't intend to be single and childless. That wasn't my great plan. It's just how it's turned out. But anyway, look, the death of someone so close, the ripples of that when that shock drops into your life, those ripples, they go on for months, possibly even years. And for me, it's that sort of dawning thing of, you need to be a bit careful, because if something goes wrong, well, there's no one now. So yeah, it's as simple as that. It also, the thing about the mortality, and again, this is not morbid, but the fact is, none of us know how long we've got. Of course not. It has made me really think about how, what I want from the rest of my life. I hope to live to a ripe old age. All the women in my family, my great-grandma, my grandma, my great-aunt, they've all lived into their 90s, even into their 100s. Now, I don't know that I'll live that long, because, I've done some dubious things in the past. But it could be that, I might have 40 years in me still. So what do I want the rest of my life to look like? And that's what I mean about, this isn't maudlin reflection. This is, let's turn this into something exciting. Let's take this moment and say, you know what? Carpe diem, seize the day. It's not to say, live your life as if every day is your last day. That would be ridiculous. That's kind of far too heightened in terms of emotion, adrenaline, being irresponsible. If this was the last day of my life, I'd probably buy 3 donkey orphans. But of course it's not, because I've got a lot more days to come, hopefully. So it's not about going out and being reckless and spending all your money and all that. I plan to live into old age. I hope to live into old age, so I need to keep mindful of my money to look after myself in old age. It's more about a feeling of, I suppose it's sort of what you might call a wake-up call, isn't it? Do we sleepwalk through life? Are we just doing the same thing over and over again because it's comfortable, because it's easy, because it's the route of least resistance, it takes the least energy? Are we just stumbling through life? Is that really how we want to live, just stumbling through life? Or do we want to shake things up a bit? Do we want to make some changes? The thing about change is it requires an injection of energy, and we might be a bit tired. Life may have made us feel a bit tired, so change seems like even more effort than to just stay the same. One phrase that's been going through my mind so much, almost daily, actually I'll come to that in a sec, but it's this thing about New Year that I think makes us particularly introspective and reflect on the year. And like I always say, every New Year, you know, at the stroke of midnight, there's not a magic wand and suddenly your life is going to change and be better. And if you've had a really horrible year, and look, there's no doubt about it, this year for me was awful, absolutely horrendous. However, there was still fantastic stuff in this year. Fantastic stuff. So I don't want to throw this year away. What a waste. What a waste. I wish one certain thing hadn't happened, but yeah. So at the stroke of midnight, our lives don't magically change. If we want our life to change, we have to do something. We have to put into action some changes. So yeah, this phrase that's run through my mind over and over again all year is, I keep saying to myself, is this how I want to spend my time? Is this how I want to spend my days? And the answer at times has been no. So I've already put some changes in motion, more of which you will see as we go into next year. Some things you won't see until we're way into next year, and I'll talk about things more as they come about. Ooh, tease, Vivi. Yeah, there's been a lot of decision making this year. You know, that my trip to Swanage at the end of September, it was wonderful. It was, and I don't use the word lightly, it was perfect. Now, ostensibly, that trip was for me to go to Swanage with some of my sister's ashes and take her to her two favourite beaches, go and have a little swim with her. Brilliant. And she had left provision. She left me a bit of money for a couple of nights accommodation and my train fare, and I made the decision, and I'm so glad I did, to put some of my own savings, add some of my own savings to that, to get 2 more nights accommodation so that I didn't have to rush. It was utterly brilliant because I had time to stop. I had time to think. I had time to be. And I think in particular, excuse me, on the Sunday when I spent the entire day on those 2 beaches, I didn't even, go into a cafe for lunch or anything. I was out all day, swimming and then just sitting in a breeze and sunshine, drying off, swimming again. I didn't have a book with me. I literally just, the whole day was quiet, contemplation. And I kept saying to myself over and over again, when you get back to London, when you get back into the swing of things, you must find time to do this, as in nothing, to just sit in nature and have time to think, have time to reflect, and have time to actually just have an empty brain, just enjoy the breeze. So yeah, it was in those moments I started to think, I need to make some changes in my life. I do. I need to make time. That's one thing. And it's a theme every flipping year. I say I need to find time to do things and what have you. But I'm working out ways for that to happen. and for those changes to happen. So yeah, the trip was perfect. It gave me that lovely time with my sister. I was so happy. There were days when I had tears rolling down my cheeks because I was missing her, but I was still grinning like a Cheshire cat because I was so happy to be in all our places, you know. And sort of in the sea, there was one point when a wave, there were quite big waves by the time I got down to Swanage. I got proper smashed by a wave, and came up spluttering, you know, coughing up seawater. And I just thought, I could hear my sister laughing at me. I could just hear her laughing. And it made me laugh. I was laughing at the thought of my sister laughing at me. Yeah, it was brilliant. It was so perfect. And I think the timing of it as well. Look, I'm still going to get a little bit weepy when I talk about it, but hopefully not too much. Yeah, so the timing of it was great because also while I was there, I was thinking about, you know, my house move and, you know, I really have to get a chivvy on with that in 2024. Right, what do I need to make that happen? So I started to make that mental list of all the things I need to do, things I need to chase up. And I think also that was really useful because it's given me that cushion of time to really, really realise that that my time in this flat is drawing to a close. And I'll be dead sad to leave here. Of course I will, but I'll be dead excited to move. So yeah, it was a breathing space, and I think yeah, I mean, goodness knows I needed it, but maybe it's one of those things. I know for some of you who are going through some tricky stuff, have had some tricky times, maybe that's what we all need from time to time, is 3 or 4 days, no family, no friends, no one to distract us. And if you've got a phone where you can get emails and stuff, leave it at home, turn all the devices off, just go and sit and be in nature, or even a park bench, but no, because then people will go past and you might get chatting if you're like me. Just a time of, it was monastic almost for me. I hardly spoke a word apart from speaking out loud, because I speak out loud to myself all the time, but to just really sit in my own thoughts and allow, and I'm not talking about my sister now, but allow some of the negative thoughts to come out, because I think I'm certainly guilty of this. If I start to have a negative thought, and by negative thought I might mean something like, oh, I'm fed up about such and such a thing, or I'm bored of such and such a thing. When I feel those negative thoughts coming out, I tend to very quickly suppress them again and say, no, we haven't got time to be fed up about this. We've just got to get on and do it and accept this is our lot and get on. Whereas because I stopped, I allowed those thoughts to come out and think, yeah, actually, I am really fed up about that thing in my life. And I'm not going to ignore it anymore. I don't want to be fed up. I don't want to keep pushing that emotion down. I want to deal with this thing once and for all. For example, I mean, an example of that is dealing with the nasties on social media. Why? Imagine if if it was the last day of my life and I suddenly thought, I've spent the last 6 months dealing with nasty people on social media. Why? I don't want that to be, no, let's not have that anymore. Let's just get rid of people straight away. And I'm not talking about making my channel, you have to toe the party line, otherwise you get kicked out. No, it's not that at all. You can disagree with me, that's fine. It's about people who come on and are just brutally nasty and it's personal. It's like, no, get rid of them. We all have those people in our lives who drain our battery, don't we? Don't we all have one or two folk like that in our lives? And that phrase that kept running through my mind, is this how I want to spend my time? I was thinking that about people as well. Do I really want to spend my precious time listening for an hour to someone moaning, to a person who always moans? All they do is, you see, the thing to me about friendship is it's two-way traffic, isn't it? My really good friends, I have a moan to them, and then I ask them how they are, and they have a moan back to me, and we laugh at all the things we're moaning about, and we let each other moan, and then we talk about other stuff. We might celebrate things with each other. We might chat politics or, you know, the weather, whatever it is, but it's two-way. And we all have those people in our life where the traffic is not two-way, it's one-way from them. Just continually dumping, continually moaning, and it's the same over and over again. And I thought, why? Why do I listen to this? Why do I put up with this? This is my precious time. No. So I'm learning to say no, which is quite difficult for me. On Facebook, I have pretty much closed down my personal Facebook page. It's still there. I have to have a personal Facebook page in order to have Vivi's Kitchen Garden page. And the Kitchen Garden page I love because everyone's so lovely and positive on it. We've never had any issues, any negativity on that page. I love it, and I love you for that. But on my personal page, my God, yeah. So I've kind of got rid of everybody. It's now literally just a couple of family members. That's pretty much it. So don't anybody get upset. Everyone's gone. But in doing that, I got rid of a couple of the battery drainers. Oh, my goodness. That I had, shortly after I came back from Swanage, I was at home, I was working. I don't know what time. It was in the afternoon, and I was editing. And I had a message from an acquaintance in the area to say, are you in? Do you fancy a natter? And this is another drainer. Now, I had the perfect excuse because I was actually working. So I replied to say, actually, sorry, no, I'm in the middle of work, which was true. But also I thought, why? Why am I letting you into my life for you to spew your negativity at me for an hour and then walk off? And I don't even get to talk, you know. So yeah, for me, I have to be quite brave about that. It's not coming naturally to me because I am a bit of a people pleaser. I don't want to offend, don't want to upset. But because of that over the years, how much energy, how much time have I lost listening to other people? And it sounds like I'm having a massive whinge out. I don't mean any of this as a whinge. For me, this is all really, really positive stuff. You know, we have to look after ourselves, and sometimes to do that, we have to acknowledge the stuff that's not great in our lives. We have to acknowledge the things that make us fed up, the things that are an energy drain, the things that are a time drain, and say, actually, maybe do we need any of these things in my life? Yeah, it might be quite hard to say no. But eventually, what a relief. Now, this phrase I keep saying about, is this how I want to spend my time? Look, of course, how I want to spend my time, sitting on a beach looking at the sea, in the sea splashing, reading a book, sitting in my garden listening to the birds twittering, staying up half the night talking with really good friends over the 7th bottle of wine. There might be 7 friends. Yeah, that's how I'd love to spend my time. That's not what I'm talking about, because of course we all have to work. We all have to, we have to do things we don't really like, some of the time, don't we? We have to pay the bills. Yeah, I'd love to not have to do anything other than pick up a book or pick up the phone and chat to a friend. So I'm not talking about that. There are always, when I say, what do I want, how do I want to spend my time? Is this how I want to spend my time? Of course, sometimes it's no, because it's work. I mean, when we think about our free time, when we think about the people in our lives, I think you get what I mean. Apart from, we have to work, for example, most of us do, because we have to pay the bills. Take that out of the scenario. Outside of that, are you spending your time doing things you don't want to? Are you spending your time, your precious time, putting up with someone that you don't want to? Is someone stealing your time, stealing your energy? Is something stealing your time, stealing your energy? yeah, so that's gone around and around and around, and that's all part of that kind of my sister dying in her 50s. That's far too young as far as I'm concerned. Makes me think about my own mortality and what I'm doing with my life. Not because I think, oh, I'm going to die in a few years. Not that at all. Like I said, this is not a maudlin, morbid thing, but just more along the lines of, am I really embracing life? There we go. That's what we have. You know, I had a note from my sister, and she talked about embracing life and not crying. It's funny actually, because every time I have a really hard cry about her, I apologise to her out loud. I say, sorry sis, I know you told me not to cry. She told me not to cry. I said, I know you told me not to cry, I can't help it. But anyway, yeah, life is precious. Life is, so back to the beginning of what I was trying to say in a long roundabout way, life is really precious. I have my health, I have my life, I need to make the most of it. And like I said, that's not to suddenly live as if every day is the last day and start doing parachute jumps. I ain't doing that. But just in a really simple, gracious way to honour life itself, to celebrate it. It's those small joys, those simple joys, to really be in those moments, to appreciate, I have this beautiful thing called life, and around me there are beautiful lives. Relish it. But the negative stuff, the stuff that's bringing you down and draining you, if you can find a way to cut that out of your life, cut that out, so you're not spending time thinking, but rather spend your time celebrating this joyous thing called life. What else did I want to chat about? Oh, God, that's a bit hot and heavy, isn't it? Look, it's been a bit of a hot and heavy year, and I'm bound to have those reflections this year more than ever. I often think that's often been my way of thinking, but maybe a sort of slightly watered down version. But this year I thought, you know what? Yeah, let's stop mucking around. Let's go and achieve that life we want to achieve. And I said that already, I just looked down because I've got my book of the year here to share with you. Hang on. I was just saying that trip to Dorset, my goodness, the ramifications. So during the trip, and then for days afterwards, all those sorts, I had so much clarity of thought whilst I was there, and a clarity in terms of what I need to do. Okay, we know. And some of that has already been put into action. You won't see the results of those actions yet. You will do as we go into next year. And some of the results of those actions, they might not be seen for 4 or 5 years, but wheels are turning. And one of the things, I'm going to have a really good blow, so I'm going to stop the camera because this is going to be a hard blow. Ooh! I blew a few brain cells out as well. Yes, so one of the things is, for example, that I have put into place already is my new playlist all about books. Now, at the moment, the views are tiny, but that's okay. It's a seed that's only just been sown. You know, right back to the beginning of my channel, the views were tiny. It takes time for things to grow. Initially, my channel there was a lot about the gardening, and people came to it thinking it was a gardening channel. And I always tried to be clear right from the beginning, my channel is not a gardening channel. It's not a cooking channel. It's not a frugal channel. It's just my little old life channel. Anyway, yes, so I've started my book playlist. I mean, look, partly it's because I love books, I love reading books, I love talking about books, I love sharing books and book information, fab. And it's something I've thought about over the last year or so, and It's like, right now, the time for action. So like I said, it's tiny at the moment. And in fact, the videos are hardly paying for themselves yet. That's okay. I plan to grow it and hopefully, you know, more people will come over. That's why I was referring about the gardening. I might lose subscribers as I do a bit less gardening, but I might gain subscribers for the books. It's okay. I'm happy to do a bit of everything. But the thing about the books, and this comes back to almost the beginning of the video, about looking after myself. I have to look after myself because I've got no one else to rely on. It's kind of future-proofing myself, because on my worst pain day, when I can't stand up, I can sit in a chair and talk about books, can't I? Or let's say further down the line, when I have a knee replacement and I'm off my feet for a couple of weeks, I can sit in a chair and I can talk about books. I mean, I can sit in a chair and talk about pretty much anything, frankly, but books are a passion of mine. Let's share that. Let's get not the channel, it's not a separate channel. It's almost like starting a new channel actually, but let's get that playlist started now. And let me build it and build it and build it and build it, so that hopefully by the time when I do have knee surgery, or like I said, for those days when it's a really high pain day and I can't even get out of the house, never mind, you know, do anything physical like standing up and cooking, at least I can always make a video sitting down in a chair talking about books. So I'm really happy to have started that. I feel really positive about it. And you know what, even if it always stays a niche thing, that's okay. It's no skin off my nose to make the videos. I love to do it. So yeah, so that's just one little thing that's come out of that time in Swanage. One little change. And here's the thing, isn't it, that, and I think this refers also back to what I was saying about the clock striking midnight. When the clock strikes midnight, do not expect your life to be different. I think quite often when we want our lives to be different, we want some grand, huge change. But big changes are hard to do. Moving house is a big change. That's going to be hard to do. There's no two ways about it. But what about lots and lots of little changes? Because lots and lots of little changes can add up to that big change that you want in your life. That's what I'm doing for myself at any rate. So yeah, what a year, a difficult year in many ways, but also it's a year, I was going to say it spun me around, knocked me sideways, but on the other hand, it's a year that has maybe spun me around, faced me in a different direction, and I've looked in the different direction and thought, hang on a minute, actually maybe that's an okay direction to go in. Yeah, thanks sis. Thanks for spinning me round. And that's, you know, that's what I mean about it. It was a hideous year in many respects, but so much good stuff has happened. Look, I got a great harvest. From a tiny garden, I pared it down, I got a great harvest. I have really beautiful friends, and actually I've been consciously spending more time with those really good friends by whittling my friend list down, or it's more acquaintances than actual friends, but by getting rid of that constant chatter, that draining chatter of acquaintances, I have time for really good quality time with actual friends now. This year has shown me how precious time is, both in terms of a day and in terms of years. I want to use my time wisely, and I don't mean being productive every minute of every day, certainly not, but I want to use it so that, yeah, so that it's a celebration of life. Every minute's going to be a little tiny celebration of life. If I'm talking to someone, I want that person to be a gorgeous person who's interesting and who loves me and who supports me, and likewise I do that back for them. If I'm going to spend my time making something, make something for myself every night, you get the gist. Putting the little changes into place. So I realised I'm going to get into, hang on, I was going to, and very quickly, two things. This year's had some firsts as well. I had my first flat apricot in the summer. Do you remember I tried it? I've got something to try with you all now today. This is completely random. I had in my lovely hamper from Nikki, there was some dried fruit. Now, apricots and figs are two of my favourite dried fruits. Have them regularly, love them. Or, well, not regularly, but throughout my life I've had them often. But this had dried pear and dried apple. Gorgeous. But also prunes. I have never in my life eaten a prune. I don't know why. It's just never. So I'm going to have a prune. I'm going to try my first ever prune with you. It might be a bit too chewy. Hang on. It's very chewy. I've eaten that a bit too quickly. Not overly sweet. Well, I like prunes. And there's quite a few left. I've left them all till the end. Oh, that's lovely. That chewiness. Who needs sweeties when you can have prunes? Now, aren't prunes the one that's supposed to make you go? I mean, I don't need any help with that. But yeah, yummy prunes. Oh, and they're in my lovely little Liberty bowl. Isn't that lovely? See, little simple, precious, joyous moments of life. If you're going to eat some dried fruit, put it in a little bowl, in a beautiful little bowl. Pick that up second hand for a couple of quid. Liberty, lovely. It's got, where is it? Let me see it there. I don't know if you won't be able to. There we go. Get the shadow on it. It's got a tiny chip. Doesn't matter. Oh, thank you, Nikki. I like prunes. I want to get off camera now so I can scoff a load more. But just before we do go, it's the book of the year. I've had some great reads this year. In fact, I would say that probably, I don't know, 70 or 80% of what I've read this year, I've got to the end and thought, oh, I loved that. Then probably another 25%, I thought, yeah, I quite enjoyed that. That was good. And there's only maybe 2 to 5% where I thought, nah, wasn't for me. So it's been really, really hard to choose my book of the year because they've all been, well, so many of them have been utterly brilliant. Last year, my book of the year was Meadowland by John, I've forgotten his name now. John Double Barrel. Sorry. And it was quite an easy, it was a standout book of the year. This year, though, I've ended up with 4. So I've done them in reverse order. There were 4 absolute corkers, but they get better and better and better. So in at number 4, I have decided on James Rebanks's English Pastoral. I seem to always have a copy in the shop. English Pastoral. In North America, you know it as Pastoral Song. And oh, hang on. Twisty. He's written 2 books so far, has he? I think his wife's even written one now. But English Pastoral is specifically about agriculture rather than... So it's still a personal experience, but it's how agriculture has changed in the UK. Sort of 100 years of agriculture, and how we're sort of going back to some old methods because we realise we've lost something along the way. So English Pastoral was number 4. Number 3, although one might say it should be number 1 because of the significance and the power of and the importance of the book, but it's not number 1 because in terms of indulgent enjoyment, it wasn't. So I'll tell you what it is and then it's easier to explain. So in at number 3, I've chosen Rebecca Skloot's The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks. I mean, it's a fantastic read. Briefly, and I'm sure most of you know it by now. Maybe I can try and link all the previous videos. And I am doing, with the book playlist, I am going to go back and show previous videos which are lost and buried in chats, sofa chats from 3-4 years ago, so that they will be available in a more easy to find way. But Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks, essentially it's about cells which were taken from a black woman who died from cervical cancer. Those cells survived, and it was the importance is massive because previously laboratories hadn't been able to keep cells alive, these kinds of cells. Because they were kept alive and they kept replicating, reproducing, the lab was able to sell them over and over and over and over and over and over and over again for science, for research. And undoubtedly we have so much to thank these cells for, this woman's cells, because of advances in all sorts of medicines, vaccines, what have you. But the cruelty of it was that the family didn't know the cells had been gathered, they didn't know the cells were being sold, they didn't know that these labs and science companies were making billions and billions and billions and billions of pounds. Meanwhile, this family is in abject poverty. That's it in a nutshell. I won't go into any more. It's obviously you know, it's a hard read in terms of race inequality. It's a hard one to swallow. It felt like there's so much injustice. Since reading the book, I've subsequently heard that the Lacks family, her family, that the sort of next 2 generations down, they have finally had a financial settlement at last. But that book was, firstly, it was a fascinating read. I think from the point of view of science and medicine, which I'm fascinated in, it was brilliant. And then every now and again it kept bringing me back to this family in poverty, and it was just awful and wretched stuff to read about. So a difficult read, a powerful read, brilliantly written. She's a journalist, so it was brilliantly handled, fantastic. It would be my number 1 book, but for the fact that it's not a pleasant read, it's not a happy, it's not a relaxing read. Otherwise it would have been number 1. But it's an important book, and I think everyone should read it. Rattling through quickly, in at number 2 is Sproutlands by William Bryant Logan. That's a really recent book. I spoke about it, I think, only at the beginning of December. The book that's about pollarding and coppicing, but it's about so much more. And again, it's sort of almost like the English pastoral, going back to previous ways. It references, or I was referencing, braiding sweetgrass, the Robin Wall Kimmerer book, these sort of crafts, this nurturing of land and other life, not human life, the nurturing of it, the care of it, the management of it, which created a wonderful symbiotic relationship, which we seem to be trashing and losing left, right and centre, but actually now we're starting to come back to. So, fascinating read. Couldn't put it down. Brilliant book. My number 1 read, though, for 2023, hands down, didn't even have to think twice about it. Daniel James Brown's The Boys in the Boat. Fab. And I think I've just found that clip that I did of the review, so I'll show you that in a week or so. It's now been made into a film, George Clooney directing, so I'll put that review back online so you can see it again. But in a nutshell, a really, really, really tough story in terms of the young man that it's about. Terrible start in life, really tough, Depression era America, the rise of the Nazis in Germany, horrible stuff. But the beauty of hard work, teamwork, paddling in this boat and socking it to the rest of the world at the 1936 Olympics. I had tears rolling down my cheeks so many times reading that book, sometimes from laughing, a lot of times because I was moved, saddened by all sorts of events. And by the end, I did not want to say goodbye to any of these men, these 8 guys in the boat, another, the coach, the boat builder. I didn't want to let them go. I utterly loved them all by the end, actually by the middle. I wanted to go and sit in a pub with them all. I wanted to go and hang out with them at the boathouse. I couldn't bear the thought that actually they're all dead now, because we're talking about a boat race in 1936. They were so vivid and alive for me in that book, and I just adored the whole lot of them. Didn't want to let them go. Cried at the end of the book. Brilliant. Such a well-crafted book as well. I think that's the other big thing, is dealing with sort of three strands, 3 threads of a story, and difficult stuff to talk about. But he kept weaving them together like a braid in a hair. So beautifully. So hats off to Daniel James Brown for utterly brilliant craftsmanship in his writing, and a great story to choose to write about. Bravo! So yeah, that's my book of the year, The Boys in the Boat. Closely followed by Sproutlands, about the trees, Rebecca Skloot's Mortal Life of Henrietta Lacks, and James Rebank's English Pastoral. Okay, well, I think oh my goodness, time has ticked up. I can't do a short one. I will practice. I will try and do a short one. So for now, it's not open. You see, it's not open. I think it's time to say cheerio. Cheerio 2023. You were interesting. You gave me some challenges. I really look forward to 2024. You know what? I just look forward to tomorrow. Always look forward to tomorrow. Because tomorrow we get to do all sorts of things, don't we? It's a whole new day. We get to have fun if we want to, if we choose to. So, my unopened bottle of Prosecco, I'm going to raise it to you all to say cheers. I hope you have a smooth and gentle passage into a new year. I will see you on the other side of the calendar, where we'll be getting up to some of the usual stuff, some different stuff, but more than anything, we'll do things together in which I enjoy life, embrace life, because life is beautiful. There are moments of joy and beauty in every single day. They might be tiny. They might be as tiny as just choosing one of your favourite bowls to put some dried fruit in. But there's beauty in it. Let's celebrate that next year. Maybe a little bit more. All right, lovelies. Until next year. Cheerio. Happy New Year, everyone. Cheers. Cheers. See you soon. Cheerio.